Hello and welcome to New Retirement Thinking. My name is Kura Chihota. On this show, we aim to weed through retirement myths and unveil investment facts. It's been reported that the South African retirement industry is amongst the top 15 in the world, but this is overshadowed by the lack of transparency sometimes in the industry. Here to tell us if there's any truth in this statement is CEO of FedGroup Life, Walter van der Merwe. Welcome to you, Walter.
Thank you, Kura.
Now, when we're talking about percentages, now a fund manager or a retirement manager is going to charge fees on a percentage basis. Yes. The impact of that fee structure is significant over the life of the investment. Help us get a scale of how important even a 1 or 2% percentage point fee basis can impact on our investment over time.
Perfect. The easiest way to understand it is what we call simple interest. So you simply take the number of years and you multiply it by that percentage to get an idea of the impact on your retirement savings. For example, if it's 2% per year and you save for 10 years, it's 2% times 10, which gives you 20%. So that's how much you are paying in fees due to the compounding effect of interest.
Now that scares me because if we follow the maxim that we start putting away 15% of our income at our beginning of our working life when we're going 40 years, if you're leaking 1 or 2 or more percent, that becomes quite a major differential in the end result that you're going to end up with.
Correct. And the unfortunate thing is you only realize the impact when you reach retirement. You don't track that while you're saving. So it's a very dangerous thing not to make sure that you fully understand the fees that you're paying for your retirement savings.
When a set of prices or these percentage fees is a platform fee, there are a number of fees that some of the managers want to load on the account. How do we as unsophisticated investors get to actually tax those costs so we can understand what is adding value and what is detracting from our value?
Kura, you're hitting the nail on the head there, and it's one of the things that really frustrate me about our industry. The fact that there's no transparency. Often there's layers of fees, so only the top fee is disclosed to you, and we as consumers have no idea about the underlying managers and what they charge, even transaction fees. Every time there's a transaction, there's trade costs involved, and we don't see those fees. So it's very difficult for us to actually see that because there is no transparency.
Now, a show like this aims to pick out the nuggets that people can actually take in when they sit down next to say, look, how do I break down this fancy statement of account that I've got with you? What are the things that we can look at to have those discussion points with the people who are looking after our money?
It's asking questions. In other words, who am I paying and for what? It is true that they add value. There's nothing wrong with that. But they need to tell us how much they're charging us and what they're charging us for. So it's a matter of asking questions. This manager is charging this fee, this is what they perform, this is what they do, this is how my assets are going to perform, to hold them accountable. The whole thing about accountability is another frustration of our industry.
Sure, but then there's a responsibility on us as the consumers to understand, because when you ask a question to your expert, you've got that asymmetrical information.
Yep.
He's deemed to know he or she has the status, and so no, that's just it's a standard, and then you're stuck there and you're not getting what you really need.
Yep. Having those answers gives you the opportunity to compare. So now you can go and ask others, what are they paying for it? What are they getting for it? And that gives you perspective. Because you're quite right, we don't have perspective. We don't know what's reasonable. And having something to compare it to gives us that insight.
Now, talk to me about performance. You have the idea in your mind that, we're going to do a basic service, but we're asset managers, we're rocket scientists, we're going to do so well for you, and we're going to charge you a performance fee. How do you interrogate that and keep people honest to the promises that they've sold you?
See, I don't believe in performance fees. They're already earning a fee to deliver what they need to deliver. Retirement savings is also not a high-risk saving. Therefore, they must meet their mandate and earn a fee for that. I mean, the counter argument to performance fees is, if there's a lack of performance, are they going to give the fees back? And that doesn't happen in practice. So, as good as it sounds that a manager, if he outperforms his mandate, he can get an extra fee, but that's what he's supposed to do in the first place. And he doesn't pay you back if he doesn't meet that mandate. So, as far as possible, avoid these performance type fees. Don't allow them as part of your retirement savings.
And is it a simple conversation to say, look, can you give me the categories of fees that are before me, and I accept those, I reject those, and you have a candid conversation over the cup of coffee when they're presenting this to you?
Most certainly. They have a responsibility at least once a year to present to you and tell you, this is how the assets have performed, this is the fees that they are charging, and yes, they can change those fees. Of course they can. It's a basis that they've put in place, and it's a service that they deliver, and we as consumers have a right to say we accept them or we don't accept them.
For us to be able to compare that, where do we find the comparators, so to speak, that we can be confident to say, well, boutique A is offering this, boutique B is offering that? Where do we find that kind of information out?
It's another frustration for me that our retirement savings industry has no set standard of disclosing fees. If we compare it to the unit trust industry, there's a total expense ratio. In other words, they take all the costs associated with that saving. It's the same standard for everybody, and they quote a percentage. And that enables you to compare what it's costing versus the performance versus the mandate. Unfortunately, in the retirement savings industry, that standard doesn't exist. And it's something that we need to drive very hard as consumers and ensure that it gets legislated so that we can get a standard. For now, what we need to do is ask. Unfortunately, that's where we need to trust the industry, that they'll show us those fees, that they'll fully disclose the fees. And that's also for us as consumers, retirement savers, where there's a lack of trust.
Sure.
I mean, why wouldn't they be transparent?
Yeah. The show is New Retirement Thinking. We're going to see you after the other side of the break and figure out how we keep track of where we're getting to our retirement goals. We'll see you on the other side of this.